Good evening and welcome to the Community Development Committee meeting for Monday, March 31st, 2025. We have two items on this evening's agenda. The first item is a matter of approval of the meeting minutes for the Community Development meeting as circulated for March 10th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
Moved by Mr. Oswald, second by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And agenda item number 2 will be tabled for further discussion. So we're going to remove and table that of agenda item number 2, and we'll come up for further discussion. With that being said, Mr. Tollett will call the joint meeting.
At this time, I will call finance to order for the joint meeting.
All right, perfect. We have 3 items on this evening's joint Community Development and Finance agenda. Item number 1 is the matter of approval for the meeting minutes from the joint Community Development and Finance Committee meetings from March 10th, 2025 as circulated. I'll entertain a motion from Community Development.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Mrs. Mitchell, seconded by Mr. Oswald. Any further
Question.
discussion? Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On behalf of finance, can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item number 2 on the agenda is the matter of a public hearing for the 2025 CHIP program, Community Housing Impact and Preservation Application, referred by Community Development Manager Amal Bayed. Butchered that a little bit.
No, you did great, thank you. Good evening. Yes, this is our Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program. These are home funds that are provided through the state of Ohio. The application is due on June 18th, so we did ask that this be passed as an emergency in order to meet those deadlines. The second public hearing is scheduled for May 27th, and we also ask that committee make their consideration after the second public hearing. And final consideration would go on June 2nd. We typically receive about $250,000. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide residents with general information about the grant and to get feedback from residents. This grant will allow for certain housing activities. They are owner rehabilitation, home ownership, tenant-based rental assistance. We have applied for this grant for many years, so some of you may already be familiar with the program. Since Elyria is an entitlement community with HUD for our CDBG dollars, which means we get our CDBG dollars directly through HUD, there are certain activities that we are not able to apply for under the CHIP grant. The ones that we're eligible for are the ones that we had mentioned before. We have typically applied for the owner rehabilitation project. This activity provides financial assistance to income-eligible homeowners to correct issues with electrical, plumbing, heating systems, roofing, walls, and floors, whereas our CDBG dollars can provide up to $20,000 to help a resident with these issues. The CHIP grant can provide up to $85,000 to address multiple issues in the home. The other activity is the rental rehabilitation activity, and that is basically the same as the owner rehabilitation, except this is for renter-occupied housing stock. We have not applied for that option before, although we are allowed to. Basically because there are a lot of other restrictions tied to the rental rehabilitation. There is a 15-year affordability period, which means the city would be responsible to make sure that the tenants in that house that we helped were income eligible for 15 years. And if we go through a long enough period, 18 months, where we don't have an income qualified person in that housing stock or in that housing unit, the city does have to pay back that money that we use. There's also a rent limitation, so the landlord cannot charge more than 30% of that individual's adjusted gross income, so it does put a limit on what the landlord can charge for that. So those were just a couple of the reasons why we haven't applied for it in the past. The home ownership part, this provides financial assistance to households to purchase homes through down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, things like that. We can also use our CDBG funds for that activity. The tenant-based rental assistance program, that provides affordable monthly rental payments to income-qualified individuals. Financial assistance is provided to property owners to kind of subsidize the tenant's monthly rental payments, generally through a subsidy, so they're not paying more than 30% of their income to their rental payment. We have worked with the Lorraine Metropolitan Housing Authority in the past to provide this program through CHIP as well. But as I mentioned before, we have another public hearing on May 27th. So there will be, on May 27th, we should have our activities lined up that we plan to apply for. Yeah, that's all we have for this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Almabayed. Are there any questions or concerns from the committee? Mrs. Davis?
You, Chair. So I'm hearing you. Are apartments in this qualification? And when you say rental,
That's for the rental rehabilitation are single-family homes, families that are renting a single-family home. The tenant-based rental assistance, that does serve apartments, multifamily housing, or houses as well.
and they can apply for a loan to fix up someone else's home?
If we want to. If council decides that's something that they would be interested in, but we haven't done that in the past. We did the tenant-based rental assistance, which provides like a one-time, up to 3 months typically, for somebody who's maybe in a multifamily house, to help pay their rent.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that assistance for the rentals to the tenants, wouldn't that fall under Section 8, or would that be because they couldn't get Section 8 money?
For the tenant-based rental assistance, yes, some of them are in Section A, and so there's a calculation. That's why we work with LMHA on how they decide. I don't know if they're having maybe an emergency where, you know, they weren't able to pay for their part of the rent. That's what I'm sure that's kind of how that's come up in the past. But we did grant them $15,000, and they were only able to use $5,000 of that. So it wasn't a really well-utilized program.
Mrs. Swerka?
Thank you, through the chair. So I'm just trying to understand, Mona, it sounds like, it sounds overall very worthwhile program, but there's an awfully large amount of financial burden and tracking and paperwork that needs to go with this. Year over year, we're going to check their eligibility, their income eligibility. How are we going to know for sure if that's correct? Is it based on their tax filings?
Yeah, we would have to work with them. There is a lien put on the property for the landlord when we do it, and yeah, we would just have to follow up, and that's why we haven't done it in the past. With the rental rehabilitation, we've stuck with the owner rehabilitation, which does not, it's a 5-year affordability period. The city's not on the hook to pay anything back if, say, the property owner moves before that 5 years is up. That's on the property owner to pay that, or what's left of the estate at that point in time. So yeah, the rental rehabilitation part of it is in my opinion, it's kind of a risky program for the city to apply for. We just bring it up because in these public hearings, we're required to tell
okay,
everybody
okay.
the entire range of activities that you could apply for.
Okay, if I could continue through the chair. Okay, so that clears that up, because it sounded like an awful lot of tracking and bookkeeping, and, I mean, you've got to keep track of somebody who's been living in this house for 5 years, and then you've got to keep the records for 15 years after that. What's the overarching goal of this program on a, I don't know, statewide level, or what's the intent of this, to try to just improve housing stock? Is that the end goal?
I think it's to, improve housing stock and help with affordability issues and the low-income population, keep their homes in a safe, habitable environment.
So, through the chair, my last question then is, are the current staff members and staff complement that we have in community development enough to keep track of this? Because there's an awful lot of moving parts in this that you'd have to keep track of.
No. So, when we do have to contact the different service providers in the community to get their feedback, but at this point in time, at the second public hearing, we would definitely be recommending funding the administration and the private owner rehabilitation as we see it now, those two activities. We would definitely not be recommending at this point in time the rental rehabilitation, but it's obviously up to council to decide what programs you want to
Thank you.
fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Swerko. Mr. Oswald, did you have a question? I know Mrs. Mitchell did, but you had your hand up first.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair, through you. So on the owner-occupied rehab, did I hear you say it was $85,000? Is that per home?
Yes, right now, that's the maximum amount that you can apply for. Not to say that not all of our homes, it doesn't cost $85,000, but you can, which would limit the amount of activities you could do, because at $250,000, if you're $85,000 a piece, you're doing 2 homes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and what were so they could get electrical, plumbing?
Roofing, flooring, HVAC equipment, hot water tanks.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is structural in here? I don't like foundations or anything along that line. And if it was found, I know there were some letters that went out to residents about lead service lines. Could they use that to replace their lead service line on their responsible portion?
So the structural, I believe, is allowed, but it is depends on the local, you can decide to allow it or to not allow it. That is, under the state's guidelines, that is allowed, but, we typically don't do a lot of structural things because with basement walls and stuff like that and foundations, it can be a little bit problematic, so we try to stay away from that. And I'm sorry, the question about the lead service?
Lead plumbing or lead service, they can obviously use that if they were found to have lead in their service line or their plumbing internally in their house, because I know the conversation has been brought up recently.
So, yeah, there is funding through the county for the lead one, so we've been directing residents, if they have lead or suspect they have lead, that they could apply for those funds, but this funding can address lead issues in the home as well. But I think it might be in their best interest to see if the county grant can address that. That way you can make the dollar stretch a little bit more.
Thank you. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I know you had to throw that out there with the rental rehab, but I think that's totally a mistake of even going there. Like Mrs. Worka said, it's just too much work. And so this is what these hearings are all about, to see which ones you want to go after, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair, through you. So out of the, Ms. Mona, out of the $250,000, I know we do the owner rehab, we've done that continuously for years. What is the normal spend on that? Do we spend all of the $250,000 every year?
Absolutely,
Okay.
and we could definitely use more because we used to be able to fund 6 to 8 projects, and now, because it's just become so expensive, it's 3 projects that we're able to do, so the need is far greater than the resources.
Anyone else? All right, I'll open it to the floor for any proponents. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? All right, I'll declare that this matter has had its first public reading or public hearing, and the second hearing is scheduled for May 27th, 2025. Thank you, Manager Almabayed.
Yeah.
Oh, you're still up here for the next item. Sorry. Don't go away. All right, item number 3 is the matter of review and approval of recommendations by the Elyria Economic Development Committee associated with the Municipal Income Tax Reimbursement and Job Creation Opportunity Incentive Programs. You have the floor again.
Thank you. Yes, this is the annual review of the income tax reimbursement program. Every year, the Elyria Economic Development Committee meets to review the performance of 6 companies, which you have before you. Some companies have completed projects in order to qualify for this reimbursement, and they all require increased income tax withholdings in order to qualify. The EEDC did meet on March 17th and have recommended reimbursements for 5 of the 6 companies. 1 company has their project on hold, so until further notice. They did a different project, but so this one's on hold. So they just won't be receiving a reimbursement this year, but can pick it up if the project ever commences. The percent reimbursed to the companies vary depending on what was negotiated at the contract signing. Generally, the reimbursement is between 45 to 100% of the increased income tax withholdings. The EEDC recommendations are before you this evening. We did meet with the Finance Department, and they are in accordance with the estimated reimbursements.
Any comments from the panel? Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you, through the chair. I just wondered, on number 5, it does not say agreement should continue. All the others say agreement shall continue, but that one doesn't. That's just a
That's for
typo.
Nelson Stud Welding.
Nelson Stud Welding. I understand number 6, that's on hold because they're on hold.
Well, if it doesn't say the agreement should, okay, the agreement should continue, if I can
So it's
insert
just a
that.
typo. It's, should be on there.
Yeah,
So for the record, number 5, Nelson Stud Welding agreement should continue, just so everyone is on the same page. Number 5, Mr. Callahan?
Yeah, just want to be clear, you said should, right?
Should.
Okay.
The agreement should continue.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll read the committee report. We've considered the matter of the review and approval of recommendations from the Elyria Economic Development Committee. legislation being drawn to authorizing the resolution adopting the recommendations of the Elyria Economic Development Committee, which met on March 17th, 2025, as per the attached. May I have a motion from Community Development? Moved by Mr. Callahan,
Second.
second by Mrs. Mitchell. Any further discussion?
Pause for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
On behalf of Finance, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Call for the question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
If there's no further business to come before this committee, I'll entertain a motion from Community Development to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Oswald, seconded by Mrs. Mitchell.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Community Development adjourned.
At this time, we will continue with Finance. First item on the agenda is the matter of approval of the meeting minutes from Finance Committee meeting, which met on February 24th and March 10th, 2025, as circulated. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 2, the matter of city property that is unfit for use and to be taken out of service and to be disposed of by the best means possible. Supervisor, Mr. I. Not here. Safety Service Director?
Yeah, Mr. I is not here, but this is for a truck that we're looking to take out of service, or it's no longer really economical to keep in service due to a number of issues and repairs that need to be made and the cost associated with them. So we'd look to dispose of it in the most economical means available to us.
Any questions for the safety, excuse me.
Just through you, Mr. Chair. Just for purposes of the committee report, the referral also makes reference to 24 planter pots and also a vac trailer. Is that still the case?
Yes.
Okay.
Planter pots are the large, like terracotta pots we have down here. They were purchased years ago and they've never been taken off the pallet, quite frankly. So we're paying to store them, and so we've decided that they're not going to be incorporated into the use. And then the trailer is an extra trailer that we have. I don't think it's in good condition.
Any additional questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of finding the city has the following items which are no longer in use: a 2008 Sterling truck, a 2012 Wax Travel L trailer and 24 California planter pots weighing 68 pounds each and to be disposed of by the best means possible. A resolution declaring the said items are no longer in use and unfit for municipal use, and an ordinance authorizing the said items to be disposed of by the best means possible in accordance with the law per the attached list. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I think 2008 was the year they stopped making Sterlings, if I remember correctly. Next item on the agenda, number 3, the matter of a professional services agreement with the law firm of Squires, Patton, and Boggs for legal services relating to the Lorraine County Court of Common Pleas case State X REL DBR Commercial Realty LLC versus the City of Elyria. Law Director Deary.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. My office is in receipt of an engagement letter from Squires. We are at the point in time where I believe that it is prudent to ask council to authorize the professional services agreement based upon the number of hours we have already had Squires put into the 2 separate public records requests, the subpoenas to various members of city staff, city officials, et cetera, the filings that have been done, and within just the past several days, the filing of interrogatories from the plaintiffs. I believe that now is the time for this matter to be addressed. I will tell you that the hourly rate that has been offered is the government rate. It is a hard pill to swallow for someone such as myself when I look at what the hourly rate of a government attorney such as myself is. However, I will tell you that this blended rate includes their paralegals, their IT staff, as well as their partnership rates, and it is $575 per hour. I will be more than happy to share with you off the record what their regular hourly rate is, and it is quite a bit higher than that. So, that being said, I estimate that we will be well below the not to exceed for 2025. However, I still believe that a not to exceed of $100,000 for 2025 is not astronomical, and I would request that council would authorize this professional services agreement. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the law director? If there are none, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a request for a professional service agreement with the law firm of Squire, Patton, and Boggs for legal services relating to DBR Commercial Realty LLC versus City of Elyria, and not to exceed $100,000 for the year 2025. Legislation be drawn authorizing an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into said service agreement. Emergency clause is requested due to the status of litigation. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, use a voting sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, the matter of authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the 2025 emergency sanitary and storm sewer repair project. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every year or every other year, roughly, we go out for bids for emergency sanitary storm sewer repair contract. A lot of times, we discover issues in our roads when we're out doing resurfacing. Before we resurface a road, we camera and we find a lot of issues. So right now, we've pretty much exhausted the previous contract, and so we're asking that council pass this as an emergency. We do have this in our budget, $350,000 in our budget for this, so if there's any questions.
We did pass this in our permanent budget last meeting, so are there any questions? If not, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of the 2025 emergency sanitary and storm sewer repair contract and ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for the 2025 sanitary and sewer emergency repairs. Monies are appropriated. Emergency clause is requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 5, the matter of entering into a loan agreement through DEFA for the Gulf Road Pump Station Project, formerly known as the Windward Siphon Project. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This project is the Windward, used to be, we previously referred to it as a Windward Siphon Project. It's a project that's desperate need. It's not part of our consent decree. This is an emergency repair, essentially, project. There's a siphon that runs from Windward Drive over to Gulf Road area, and then it's pumped from a pump station into wastewater. The siphon is in very, very poor condition, so we need to replace it and do some major work over there on this. And today we're looking to actually go out and apply for a loan with the EPA, a DEFA loan that will help cover the costs. It is a loan. We don't believe we're going to get any grant funds as part of this application, or forgivable loan as they typically refer to it as. This project is a $4.5 million project, just to give you a little size of it. So, yeah, we are asking that this be passed as an emergency so that we can go out as soon as we can.
Mr. Pileski, are you good with how this has been structured?
Through you, Chair, yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schneider, then I'll get to you, Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this may be a question directed more to Law Director Deary, but didn't we have to get, or maybe you can answer, Engineer Schneider, didn't we have to get some easements from property owners last year to be able to complete this project? Have they all been granted?
Yes, we did, and they are complete.
Thank you. Just a follow-up.
Mr. Oswald?
Same thing, follow-up, that's in my ward, and that's been going on for a long time. I don't know how many years we've been trying to get this done. That's really needed. So I'm glad it's finally all taken care of. And yeah, there was a lot of steps we had to go through, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Sawarka?
Thank you, through the chair. Are we still getting basements flooded over there? Did we get flooded basements with the rain from the other day?
I am
No?
not aware of any, but I wouldn't doubt that the siphon there, with the restrictions that we have due to the calcification and as well as debris that's settled in the bottom of that siphon, it wouldn't surprise me.
Thank you.
Mr. Sarah? Oh, I thought you had your hand up. I apologize. If there are no more questions, I will read the committee report. We have considered the matter of the Gulf Road Pump Station Project Loan Agreement through the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance, DEFA, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and enter into the said loan agreement. Emergency clause is requested due to loan cycle and bid openings. Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is number 6, the matter of authorizing the mayor Okay. Okay, this is the matter of authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the Gulf Road Pump Station Project. Engineer Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as I spoke, this is just to go out for bid, so we can get that going as well. And we would ask this be emergency as well, just so we can stay on top of this.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, for point of clarification, did you ask for an emergency
Yes, if we could, please.
for this as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Are there any questions? Mrs. Sawerka.
Thank you, through the chair. John, is this the station that sits across from the plant up by those two houses, that little stub that goes up there?
Yes, yes. It was a tricky design. They looked at many different ways to try to get the flow over there. If there was a way to get it through gravity, through a lift station, whether we had a lift station over on the Windward side or on the Gulf Road side. So they finally settled on the Gulf Road side as far as the lift station.
And through the chair, does the Windward siphon connect to that pump station, or are they related at all?
They are related, and yes, they do. There is the overflow over there. The siphon actually, there is a siphon that bypasses the main. So if you look at the way the plumbing works over there, there's actually two siphons. One goes to the lift station and one goes to the plant. There's a bigger one that drains down Abbey Road that collects a lot of the cross streets off of Abbey Road. The siphon one that goes to the pump station is just for largely the windward people because of the elevation issues.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of bids and a contract for the Gulf Road Pump Station Project, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and award a contract for the said project. Note, an application for the Ohio DEFA loan will be submitted to fund this project. This is an emergency. Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, the matter of authorizing the mayor to apply for and enter into a loan agreement through DEFA for the Lowell Street Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Previously, council had approved the construction and go out for bid for the Lowell Street Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. This is what we're asking for today, so that we can apply for DEFA loans to help pay for the project. It's a $1.7 million project. This will extend the sewers along Lowell Street and upsize it in the area over in the Cocosian area and extend it all the way over to the Church of the Open Door. We will be back also later to council to discuss as far as fees for tapping into that once we've completed construction.
Questions? Mr. Schneider.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Engineer Schneider. Part of that, we've talked about this before in committee and on council, part of that is township, correct? So are we working on a fee structure for like township residents if they were to tap in, or are they not able to tap in? Do we know? We don't know. Sorry.
It's a very delicate
Okay.
question. It's not that they're not allowed to tap in. We have a standing ordinance that requires certain parts outside the city to annex in order to tap in. There's also a JED agreement with Elyria Township that prohibits them from tapping in certain areas if they don't want to annex. So it will come down to council as far as how you want to structure the overall capital recovery fees as well. So we will propose something once we have figures, but it really comes down to council as far as what you want.
Thank you.
To the mayor, just, excuse me, if I'm remembering correctly, and I think I just heard John say this, if they want to tap in, that section would have to be annexed into the city. Is that accurate? Is that how that?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on TV, so I'm not quite sure
Gotcha.
what the answer is on that, but I will say this, and maybe the law director or Mr. Schneider can weigh in. When I came into office, we met with Open Door, and they had talked about an expansion, which is one of the reasons why this is going, but I met with engineering because we are working with several entities. As you know, where I live, there's 140 acres out there that we're working with folks, so we've actually upgraded the size of the pipe there to accommodate future development, whatever that is, whether it's commercial or residential. You also have the north side of 113 that is currently for sale, that is in the township, and we want to be able to provide anything there. And then you have Stanley, just up the road at West Ridge, which under the Brin administration, they had talked about expanding and growing over there, and we were going to need sewer to help offset that, which that has not happened. So that's a lot of what's played in here. But as far as whether they have to annex in or not, that I am not familiar with.
Okay.
Law Director. Mr. Chair, if you could repeat your specific question. So, because as oftentimes is the case, the answer is it depends. So,
To have access to that sewer, if you are part of the township, that section would have to be annexed into the city to access that sewer, is my question.
and my answer again is it depends. So
Okay.
again, it depends on several different factors. For example, as Engineer Schneider said, if the parcel is subject to a JED, then that may be an exception. Yes, there is an ordinance on the books that states that if a parcel is currently outside the city and wishes to tap in, then yes, generally speaking, of course, there's always an exception, always. Generally speaking, yes, the property owner has to agree to either annex immediately, or that's provided that they're able to, right?
Right.
Or
It
to
has
do
to be
so when it.
contiguous,
Right,
correct?
And some other factors, yes. Or to do so when it would become possible. But again, exceptions such as if that property is subject to the joint economic development agreement, then they may be exempt from that, the requirements of the ordinance. There may be other factors that make them exempt as well. So again, that's why people don't like lawyers, because it depends. So.
Okay. Mrs. Sawerka, you are next.
Thank you, through the chair. So one of my questions was answered when the mayor gave his answer, because I was going to ask about Black & Decker, which is on the other side there of West Ridge. So that answered that question. I think we should get some clarity at some point on this whole annexation, whether they can tap in, because I'm assuming right now they've got septic systems. And if their septic goes bad, then they're going to have to, right, according to the county health department. But either way, I do think that if we get this loan and if we do this project, we probably need to establish some set requirements
right.
or rules that we're going to follow consistently.
And through you, Mr. Chair, my answer to that would be is it will be case by case based on the parcel.
And through the chair, unless we did a blanket, some sort of blanket policy.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, we could pass a blanket policy, but again, the JED is going to perhaps supersede. Again, because those are, that's an agreement that we as a city made with that township. And so that's going to reign supreme unless council's talking about potentially wanting to breach that, which I certainly would not recommend. So there's a lot more involved in that. So to say, we already are, do require as when someone, or when by someone I mean a property owner, that could be an entity, but when someone wishes to tap in to our lines, to make that agreement with us, but we can't, but no, it wouldn't, it's not accurate and it wouldn't be legally sound to make a blanket policy for an entire area. And again, there's different rules for commercial versus residential. There's different laws statewide and locally that apply to those types of things.
Through the chair, I would just reiterate that we need to make sure that we have a plan if we get this loan and if we do this project. Thank you.
Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Snyder, and you guys were throwing out some business names, and I don't know if it's been changed, but Nelson Stud, is that one that?
Is also, it's referred to as Black & Decker or Stanley.
Okay, so I guess that's what I was saying, but yes, there is, if you did upsize all these, I know all that property's for sale over there north, and if we could grab that, that would be great, and so nothing like now, get it taken care of. Thanks.
Any additional questions from the committee? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of a loan agreement through DEFA for the Lowell Street Sanitary Sewer Extension Project, and ordinance authorizing the mayor to apply for and enter into a loan agreement through DEFA for the said project. Monies are included in the 2025 permanent appropriations in the wastewater capital fund. Emergency clause is requested due to bid cycle and bid openings. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and properly seconded.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, number 8, the matter of authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the 2025 street sweeping program. Engineer Schneider?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is our annual street sweeping program. We go out twice a year, sweep all streets that are curbed, as well as, some of those areas that get really dirty as far as like painted islands on State Route 57, things of that nature. So we're looking to go out for bid again as usual. The good thing is in the past 2 years, we've had some competition finally, Prior to that, there have been a number of years since I've been here that we've only had one bidder. And I will say that we have seen the prices come down because of that competition, which is a good thing.
Okay. Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. Chair, all I want to say is the company that we had last year wasn't that stellar in the areas that I was that. And I actually made some comments that it seems like all they were doing is rustling up a lot of dust. So I think when you start making your decision, just thought I'd let you know. Thank you.
Mrs. Sawerka?
Thank you, through the chair. I guess I'm just curious, and I don't know, John, if this is for you or the safety service director, but how's our compliance factor with people not parking on the street when the notice has been put up? Have we had a large percentage of sort of non-compliant people? And I'm assuming we let the police department know?
We've had a number of, we every year we get calls, every year. Some years worse than others, but we turn it over to the police department. I don't know what ends up happening sometimes. Sometimes they get moved, sometimes they don't. But it's one of those things, unfortunately, that it's hard to control. We tried to post signage up there 72 hours in advance like we're supposed to. I don't know if people just don't see it or just don't care or what the reason is, but every year it's a challenge.
Through the chair, I'm wondering, maybe a small change, like maybe instead of those pink papers, maybe it's a different color this year. Maybe people would pay attention if it was a different color, because they've used pink for as long as I can remember.
We typically buy those in advance and buy a lot of them to get the best deal we can, so we kind of purchase 2 to 3 years at a time sometimes. I don't know where we are in the whole supply, but
Okay.
I'll take a look.
Safety
Thank you.
Service Director?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
To John and to Councilwoman Sawerka, let's talk about how we might address that if we are having ongoing problems. We've had pretty good success with a patrol officer going out on different situations, maybe not street, and they make phone calls, and people come right out and move their cars oftentimes. It does improve the situation. So let's talk about how we can maybe do a better job of having somebody ready to go with that situation in the area that we're sweeping. So maybe we can improve that and get them out of the way.
Mrs. Davis?
Through you, Chair. To the engineer, I am so glad that we have some competition that you could talk about with these different companies, because I had a conversation last year with one of the street sweepers and one posting, and they weren't too nice to our city in words. So you never know who you're talking to. I never revealed who I was. I just listened to the conversation, because they were doing a piss job anyway.
Any additional questions from the committee? If not, I'll read the committee report. We have considered the matter of the 2025 street sweeping program and ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the said program. Monies are appropriated in the 2025 budget, wastewater fund, and stormwater fund. Emergency clause is requested. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is number 9, the matter of amendments to the 2025 permanent appropriations. Director Pileski,
We have none this evening, Mr. Chair.
thank you. And then number 10, the matter of amending the salary ordinance for municipal clerk of court employees. At this time, I'm going to excuse myself based on perceived conflict and step outside. I'm going to let Director Pileski take over. He received the order from Director Rothgary, so if someone could grab me when this is concluded. Thank you.
Just as point of order, who is the vice chair? Yes. Okay.
Ms. Mitchell?
Great.
Oh, Brenda, I'm sorry.
Through the vice chair,
Yes?
last week I received a letter from Elyria Municipal Clerk of Courts, Eric Rothgary, and basically the letter says, in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 1901.31H, he's prescribing the compensation for his deputy clerks, and the increase effective January 1, 2025 is a 6% increase. Effective January 1, 2026 is a 5% increase. Effective January 1, 2027 is a 4% increase. These are the same increases that the AFSCME bargaining unit bargained and agreed to. So I believe that we have to amend the salary ordinance. I believe money's been appropriated in his budget. So I'm just here requesting that the salary ordinance be amended to incorporate these new salaries. That's what we're supposed to do. I'll send it over to the law director, see if she has any comments.
Well, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So according to state law, the clerk of municipal court may set the salaries for their staff. That being said, council has, as they say, the power of the purse. My understanding in talking with Director Pileski is that as far as the 2025 budget is concerned, that this compensation would be covered by the clerk's salary, or excuse me, by the budget would cover these salary as proposed moving forward in 26 and 27. That would be something that would need to be discussed. Now, once the salaries are set, then the issue would be, as far as setting a budget, is to perhaps, and this is not my call, it would be council's call, other parts of the budget needing to be tailored accordingly to allow for those personnel to be compensated accordingly. Or perhaps fewer personnel, just like any other department. So yes, it is true that the salaries may be set by the clerk, and that's in accordance with the revised code provision that is cited. At the end of the day, a budget can only, a budget only covers what it covers. So I believe, obviously, we're all here for any questions that you may have.
Mrs. Walker.
Thank you, through the chair. First of all, I feel like this is total blackmail by a longstanding public servant who was a council member, a safety service director, and to say to us, okay, this is it, take it or leave it, give it to my employees, when they know that we are waiting on a salary study to try to figure out where our salaries are. I wish I had voted against the AFSCME agreement instead of abstaining, although there were people who took exception to my abstaining. I think that at this point in time, I will be voting no, whether others decide to vote no. And my first question to the law director is, what's the option if we vote no? And number two, is the option to only vote for 25 increase? Because it looks like they gave us their menu of what they want for the next 3 years. There was a committee report that was tabled that allowed for the 2025 increases. If we resurrected that, otherwise we're being kind of held to this kind of ransom. That's my feeling on it.
Through you, Madam Chair. I suppose, and I would ideally like to have some time to do some further research, but I think you certainly could address compensation for 2025 only based on the fact that the budget for 2025 has already been established, and therefore we know with certainty that there's funding there to cover these salaries, whereas next year and the year after that, we don't know that. That being said, I will tell you that the revised code is very straightforward as far as setting the compensation. However, it may very well be that as an elected official, and I speak as one myself, so I realize I'm trying to be as impartial and as well as possible. Setting these salaries, and for instance, if the projections that the finance director is setting forth, are as dire or as they may be, and we're coming into some lean times. Let's just say that this department or my department or any other departments may not be able to have as many people on staff at these salaries. So yes, while it is the purview of the clerk under the revised code to set the compensation, it's also a responsibility to be within the budget. So to answer your first question, yes, I think you certainly could say we're only going to address this year. And actually, I would go so far as to say, look, we're just going to say effective January 1st of 2025, this is the compensation, and we're not going to deal with anything else, right? We're not going to say it's this year, this year, this year. We're just going to say it's this, effective this, and the rest we'll table. I will tell you that you asked what the recourse is. I mean, the recourse would be that there could be a mandamus action where we would find ourselves in court against the court. I'm not saying that's likely, but I also don't know, and that is, you asked what the possibility is, that is the possibility. That has happened in other communities across the state of Ohio. And we as a community, or we as a municipality would have to show that this is unreasonable. I'm not saying we couldn't do that, but it would not be a quick resolution.
Mr. Osborne.
Through you, Madam Chair. So I guess I don't like how it all played out. I don't like how they come to the meeting, ask for exactly what the others were getting. Why did we waste all this time if they just says we're going to be able to just automatically get it because of this? I feel this is just totally wrong. And, we've been having conversations with things are getting tight here in the city. And everybody keeps asking for more and more. And we keep saying, okay. And you know what? In another year or so, it's going to get to the point where we're going to be laying people off and people over there. And everybody isn't helping out in doing their fair share to make this work. And it's not sitting good with me. I don't like how they did it. I don't like how they come across. Thanks.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I'm not on this committee, but I know that when we discussed the salary for the municipal court employees, we asked for time to do a salary schedule, a study. So they're basically saying, no, we're not going to do the study. and this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to pay them.
Mr. Pownowski.
Thank you. Through you. As it relates to the salary study, they had previously notified me that they were not going to participate. So we're not just relying on this to get that message. That message has been delivered directly.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sarah.
I think Director Pianowski answered it, because I thought going back, it was brought up to do just 2025 at that time, and the rest of the time wait for the salary study. And having done that, and, obviously it went down, but I would still be willing to do that portion of it. But this has me rethinking a whole lot of things if they're demanding and then not cooperating with the salary study.
Good conversation. And to the director.
Through the chair,
sorry,
I would just remind through the chair, I would just remind my colleagues that in addition to this average for step A for 2025, average salary of over $60,000, that these employees all still get longevity at 12 to 15%. I'm guessing the average tenure down there is between 12 and 15 years. So they're also getting that. So as you make your deliberation on what to do here, I think you should make sure that you have that in mind as well. Thank you.
Also, I was going to ask, are they asking for retro? This is a,
Yeah, they're asking it to be effective January 1 of 2025, so it would go back to January 1 if you approve it.
no, just my comment. I have a problem with this, especially when you're asking for something that the union is getting. Union members pays dues, they have representation, and you're going to come and walk off the street and ask for the same thing and get it. We're going to have a problem with the unions. It's going to come back to bite us, that we continue to do this. I feel, just give them what they ask and no union representation and they don't pay any dues. I have a problem with that. So, Mrs. Mitchell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of feel like we don't have a choice. We can vote this down, and they'll still get it anyway. They're telling us this is what you're going to do, so we really don't even have a decision here. I mean, we can vote it down, but in the long run, they're going to get what they want. So why are we even having this conversation, I guess? Because they're going to get what they want.
Through
Ms.
you,
Terry.
Madam Chair, I will say that courts have not always sided with other courts. There recently was a case out of, I'm sorry, the county's escaping me, and they flat out said to a municipal clerk, look, you're telling us that you need to increase your clerk's salaries, that you're not able to retain staff, that you're losing them to, neighboring communities, whatever, and you're not able to show us, that clerks, next door in so-and-so's court, that they're making more, or that their benefits aren't this, or whatever. And so they said, no, we're not doing this. But I'm also not, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, and I also, can't tell you, how things would play out or how quickly or slowly things would go. But on the other hand, this relationship and how it works will continue if we don't get that type of answer.
Mrs. Swank.
Thank you, through the chair. I think we should table this to give the law director some time. We just got this today. It wasn't in our packet. It was on a revised agenda. We don't even know what the total numbers are here because every month that clicks away, the retro is going to increase. So I would be in favor of tabling it to give the law director some additional time to come back to us and answer the following questions. What are our options? And can we resurrect a tabled committee report from 2 months ago, a month ago, whatever that meeting was? And if we could ask the finance director to give us a number of an effect of these raises year over year? And perhaps you've given that to us,
So
but I would move to table.
through you, Chair, I believe that we had the entire Muni Court estimated for a 6% raise at about $143,000. So just the clerk's office would probably be about half that amount for 1 year, $70,000.
Madam Chair, one other additional, part of the whole reason that we are doing the salary study and was to see where our salaries were. And I know that they did not want to be part of it, but that doesn't mean that our HR department couldn't work on that or make some phone calls and look at some comparisons, which we still have not done. So I would ask again for someone to second the motion to table.
I'll second.
It has been moved and second that we table this to further notice. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have the same rights? It has been tabled.
Just point of order, we are still on the record, so. So, okay. All right, bring it home, sir.
Okay, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Or you can make a motion, you can ask for a motion.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
With no
please?
further business, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Question's been called. All in favor, please use the voting sign aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.